Hello everyone, this is Joel over here, and welcome to the 18th episode of a React series. And in previous episode, we just saw what is routers and how to switch from one component to other component using a button, and what is the difference between anchor tag and a link element from React router DOM. All these things we have seen in episode 17, and please go and check it out before watching this episode 18 over here. Fine. So this episode is about what is updater function and how we can implement this in a React application and why should we use this updater function. All these topics we will cover in this episode. So let's get started. Fine. Here, let me create a component called counter because counter is a best example for implementing this updater function over here. Okay, so in source folder, I'm just creating a new file saying counter.jsx, and here as usual, I'm just creating the function counter and it's gonna return. So here empty fragments and we have to export this, right? Export counter, I mean default counter. Fine. We have created a JSX file and let's create a path or an object in our router over here. So I'm creating an object and let the path be counter and the element is counter, right? Yeah, fine. It also got imported, I guess. Okay, done. So we have created the root for this and we have created the component file also. So let's switch to this component which is counter over here. Okay, right now our JSX file is empty over here. So as a first step, let me create a h2 tag saying that some value is gonna place over here. Before that, I'll just create a state variable. So const bracket and count comma set count is equal to useState and brackets that the default value will be 0 over here. Fine, useState has been imported over here. Okay, fine. We have created a function. State variable is also been created over here. Okay, now inside this h2 tag, I'm gonna pass this state variable which is count over here. And at the bottom, let me have a button saying that incrementing or count. Okay, let it be count itself. And let's check. Okay, we have 0 and count. Okay, fine. Here, let me import the bootstrap classes, which is button and b10 is danger. Okay, fine. Our bootstrap has been applied over here. Now we have a h2 tag saying the count, which is holding 0 over here. Okay, and we have created the button. So now let's create the function for our button, which is function increment saying set count. Okay, we are just setting the count value of your state variable saying that count plus 1. Okay, and we are just printing this in a console.log count. Okay, what we have done, we have created a function called increment, and using setter method we are just incrementing the count value by 1 and we are printing the count value in the console. So now here I'll just add this on click property and the function name is increment over here. Okay, now everything is good. Let's go to the web page. I'll just open the inspect window. Now in console over here, let me zoom it off. Okay, fine. So right now console is empty and h2 tag holds the value of 0 over here. Let's observe what happens when we click on this button. If I click this button count, you can see h2 tag is been changed to 1, which is count plus 1 is 1, because initially we have set the use state as 0, right? So 0 plus 1 is 1. So at the next statement we have console.log. So what should our console.log should be printing over there? It should print 1. But see over here, our console.log is printing 0 over here. Same way, if I just click on this count again, you can see now h2 tag says 2, but now our console says 1 over here. This is because setter method and console.log, basically this will be running in an asynchronous manner. They both doesn't have a mandatory that both should run sequentially over there. Basically, setter method will run in a separate thread. Console.log will be in a separate thread. They both doesn't know each other, so they can't communicate each other. So both are asynchronous over here. So now if we want to sync both the thing, instead of giving this over here, we can just pass it in a use effect over here. Use effect anonymous function, and here we can just pass it over here. Now I just refresh it, so it got printed twice because our main.jsx has strict mode, right, used for developer. So I just remove the strict mode alone. Fine. Okay, so now our console.log prints 0 over here. Even here it holds 0. So now if I just click on this count button, so h2 tag says 1, same as our console also says 1 over here. Again 2 and 2, 3 and 3. Okay, so it's keep on goes over here. This is okay, fine. Now let's come into the real concept of why updater function needs to be imported in our React thing. Okay, so now this is a counter component right here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna again paste this. Fine. So according to the logic which we have given, our h2 tag initially it will hold the value 0. Once this button has been clicked, the increment function is been called, and inside the increment function we are just setting the counter method, which is 0 plus 1 will be 1 in the counter method. I mean in the count state variable. Again, we are just using the setter method and incrementing the count. So here, basically, according to the first statement, 0 plus 1 is 1 over there. And to the second statement, it should be 1 plus 1, 2. Okay. And in use effect, it should print 2 over here. Basically, we are going to increment it twice instead of 1. So now let's go to our React page. And if we check, so what is the logic? If you click on the button, it should increment plus 2 instead of plus 1, right? But see over here, it is incrementing 1 by 1. See, 5, 6, 7, it increments 1 by 1. But see over here, we have given setter method twice. So according to the script which we have written, it should increment it plus 2. But what's happening over here? It's incrementing with plus 1. So here comes the need of updater function, because React will render their UI at a batch wise. So at a first shot, React will render their component at first thing, making that all the elements will be rendered at the once. So if you wanted to do some changes in a UI, React will collect all those component changes and then it will display to the UI over there. It doesn't do it by one. Since we have two setter method over here, it will just get the values of this and store it in separately, and get these values of this and store it in separately, and then it will just do the change over here. Basically, here count is equal to 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. It will be stored in a separate space over there. Okay, consider space. And as a second script, we have count plus 1. Same here. Count value is not been updated over here because our React will render in a batch wise. Okay, so still count is 0 over here. So 0 plus 1 is 1. So to fix this, we are going to use this updater function over here. say in the React that I have updated the state variable over here. So after this step, please change all the count state variable as the one which I updated over here. Okay. So now for this, we are going to use this update function over here. Update function is very simple syntax. Okay. Basically a function. We are just passing as a function over here. Count arrow count plus one. That's it. This is called a updater function. We are just updating the count plus one to count. And this count will be used over here. Again, count plus one will be count. So instead of giving it as a count plus one, we have to give it as a arrow function or else anonymous function over here. Now let's go and check. You can see if I just click on the button count, it increments by 2. You can see even here it prints 2 over here. Same way count 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So basically we are using the updater function, letting the React know that I have altered the state variable over here. Okay. So this is called the updater function. Hope you guys understood. This is a very small episode, and this is a mandatory concept because many of them doesn't know the React has this problem over here. Make sure while you're designing a web page, make sure this updated function is plays a vital role over there. That's it. And thank you guys for this 18th episode, and let's meet you on 19th episode, and we will just be looking into use context hook and use reference hook, same way as dynamic path loading. So 3 topics is pending, and we will be covering those 3 in a next 3 episodes of a React series. Until then, stay tuned. Thank you.